What is up, everybody? It is I, Ronin, and today we are learning how to play Social Construct Thieves. Yes, that is the joke for today. Time is a social construct, and you're dealing with it. But yeah, we are playing pure Time Thief, or more like Time Thief with some generic rank 4 support, but not the point. It's a very cool Xyz deck. Redoer is... well, it infuriates a lot of people, but it's honestly one of the coolest boss monsters in a while. And yeah, I wanted to see what a pure deck could do on its own. So, yeah, pretty much the idea is just to make Redoer, Perpetua, or other rank 4s. But let's go ahead and get into it, going over the combos and such. And we'll be starting with the best boy, because he's like a one-card really good thing, Time Thief Winder. So Winder's a level 4 psychic with 1800 attack and 1300 defense, and when it's normal or specialed, you can search a Time Thief card from your deck. Also, you can detach a Xyz material from a Xyz monster you control to special summon it from your hand. Both of these are hard once returns. So what you kind of do with this is if you open Winder and another Time Thief, you normal summon Winder, search like Time Thief Startup, which upon activation lets you summon a Time Thief from your hand. Get that on the field, and then bing bang boom, you can make a rank 4. So that's kinda the ideal search you can do with Winder, but it's pretty cool plays. Pretty cool plays. We also have in the Time Thief roster the second best one, Time Thief Regulator, who if you control no other monsters, you contribute to special summon 2 Time Thief monsters with different names from your deck in defense position except for itself. And when an Xyz monster you control is destroyed by a battle while it's in the grave, you can special it but banish it when it leaves the field. So it's a good way to just get level 4s on the field. There are some you do want in the graveyard, like the Chrono Quarter or the Bezel Ship. So yeah, very good to run it free, vulnerable to hand traps though. Speaking of Bezel Ship, though, let's go over it now. It is also a level 4 Dark Machine with 1000 attack and 2000 defense. It tributes itself. You are able to target a Xyz monster and attach something from your opponent's grave as material, which is pretty cool, especially if it's with Redoer. You can also special it by detaching one Xyz monster you control from... well, you special it from the graveyard, I should say, first. But yeah, it's a cool little extender. It's a nice way to get other material on the field. It's pretty cool. As far as our last Time Thief monsters go, we have Time Thief Chrono Quarter, a level 4 Dark Machine with 1000 attack and defense. And during the opponent's battle phase, as a quick effect, you contribute it to make it so that the next battle damage you will take that turn will instead be inflicted onto your opponent. And if a face-up monster leaves the field by card effect while this is in the grave, you can special it, banish it when it leaves the field. So it's kind of like a regulator for monster effect destruction. So it's also pretty good. A nice way to avoid some battle damage, but more importantly, it's another target for things like startup. Now for a more generic support, we have Free Summoner Monk, who, as you all probably know, you dump a spell to special summon a level 4 monster from the deck, but it cannot attack that turn, which is fine because we're mostly using it as materials. And then we have Hat Tricker, which is able to special summon itself when there are 2 or more monsters on the field. It's just a nice way to get another level 4 out. And that's kind of our monster lineup. Now, because I've been referencing it this whole time, let's go ahead and go over the full effect of Time Thief Startup. So as I mentioned before, upon activation, it lets you special summon a Time Thief from your hand. And during your main phase, you can banish this card from the grave to target Time Thief Xyz. To attach free Time Thief cards of different types, a monster, a spell, and a trap from your graveyard to that monster as material. That is it. Both of these are a hard once return. So it's a good extender and recovery, but you don't really want to run it at free or 1 because yes, while it is searchable, other times it's also the only thing that will keep you in the game if like you don't have a Winder. So I think 2 is the best. That way it can be searched easily enough. Also, it doesn't clog too much, and you can just possibly draw it if you need to. Our only other Time Thief spell is Time Thief Hack, the continuous spell. It makes it so that during the turn they are summoned, Xyz monsters you control cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects, and they cannot be targeted with card effects. You can target a Xyz monster you control, and it gains 300 attack for each material currently attached to it. And until the end of the turn, if it does, it also and has a material owned by the opponent, it can attack directly. Even if this leaves the field, this is a hard once per turn. So normally you do want to go first with this deck, but Hack is just another good spell you can attach, really. It gives more use for startup, and it's a decent-ish going second option. It's fun to turn your Time Thieves into pseudo Nightmare Sharks, so I don't know, you could run it at 1, but if you don't want to, it's perfectly good to run free Retrograde. Now moving on to the traps, we have, starting our Time Thief lineup, free Time Thief Flyback, which upon activation lets you target a Time Thief Xyz you control to attach a Time Thief card from your deck or graveyard to it. You generally want a variety of different card types under your Time Thieves, so you run this at free. Then for our last Time Thief card in the main, we have 2 Time Thief Retrograde, which, so long as you control a Time Thief Xyz, will negate a spell or trap activation and slurp it under the Time Thief. This is pretty good, especially in this format where control is such a big aspect of the game. If you could stop a big spell or trap, this is absolutely phenomenal to have. But we are playing on YGO Pro. Things get weird on YGO Pro, as you all know, so yeah, we're running it too, but for a more competitive version of the deck, I would definitely suggest Retrograde at free, at least right now. Now going on to our more generic support, we have free Solemn Judgment in order to Omni-negate more things. We have free Paw of Desires because there's not much we care about banishing. Free Allure of Darkness in case you ever need more draw power, because more draw power is always good. Free Called by the Grave because this deck outright loses to hand traps. And 2 Double or Nothing because we are running Paw of Desires, we don't want to lose our Double or Nothing. And even if we draw them, they can still be fodder for like Summoner Monk. And Utopia Double OTK is really fun, especially because it's just a win con you can have if you just make bunches of rank 4s. Now onto the extra deck though, starting with Time Thief Redoer, the boss monster for Time Thieves. It is a rank 4 Psychic Disease with 2400 attack and 2000 defense, requires 2 level 4s. And once per turn, during the standby phase, it lets you attach the top card of your opponent's deck to it as material, and you can detach any amount of materials you want from it as quick effects to activate a variety of effects. If you detach a spell, you draw a card. If you detach a trap, you place 1 card your opponent controls on top of the deck. And if you detach a monster, this is banished till the end phase. So the drawing is nice, the sort of pseudo-protection by banishing itself is cool, and non-targeting putting things back on top of the deck is sick, especially as it gives you some amount of control over what you slurp from the top of the deck. So yeah, this card is amazing. You should run it all the time in Time Thieves, especially rank 4s, and I love him. He's a very good card. On the flip side of that, we have the other Time Thief rank 4, Time Thief Perpetua, also a rank 4 Psychic Dark with this time 1900 attack and 2500 defense, also requiring 2 level 4s. And during the standby phase, it lets you detach a material from itself to target Time Thief in the grave, except itself, special it. As a quick effect, you can target 1 other Xyz you control to attach a Time Thief card from your deck to it as material. That is a hard once per turn. So if you can manage to get Perpetua and Redoer, you have basically free disruption all day long. They work very well together, but if you do have to go for one, you generally will go for Redoer, because Perpetua just doesn't do much on its own, but they work well together, so if you can make them together, like, do that, please. You deserve it. We have Utopia Double, as well as the Utopia set with the Lightning, just in case we need to beat over monsters. Utopia Double, obviously, for the OTK, otherwise we would not be running Double or Nothing. Castell, because it is a funky rank 4 that I certainly enjoy. Emerald, because it's even more draw power for rank 4s. We have a slight nightmare package of Cerberus, Phoenix, and Unicorn for that little bit of removal. And Boral Sword in case we want that easier OTK. Now moving on to the side deck, we have free Ash Blossom in case our opponent does searchy things, free Lightning Storm in case we want to go second, 2, Storming Mirror Force, because it's cheeky and no one likes getting Storming Mirror Force. 3, Infinite Impermanence, because this deck honestly needs a lot of disruption, but at the same time, I don't feel comfortable taking out anything when we're intending to go first, so it's one of those situations where I'm building to win, not building to save myself from losing. Free Solemn Strike in case your opponent is using many monster effects and Judgment's just not doing it for you. And 1 extra Retrograde. I went over that a little bit already, but it's mostly a replacement for Hack if you want, or just if you just want to play free and you need an extra because your opponent's doing a lot of mean control-y things. So yeah, that being said, that's the deck. If you're new here, we just do a couple replays. I go over what I liked, what I didn't like, what I think the deck should be able to do better, and things I feel like I could have improved on, just on my own. But yeah, with all that being said, I'll see you guys in the first replay. Alright everyone, on to the first replay with Shedin Jask. We are Tab, as usual. Our opponent is playing Cyber Darks, which is not the most compatible deck, or, well, competitive deck. I don't know what I don't even know what I was saying. Okay. Yes, our opponent is playing Cyber Darks, new Cyber Dark Dragoonity, so it's not awful, I guess. Not the most competitive deck, as I said. Sorry for repeating myself. But this is sort of showing the best opening that a Time Thief may have, and this hand might not look great, but if you open a Winder and another Time Thief, it's pretty much always a good hand. But let's go ahead and get into it. So we agree to the 2020 rules, and our opponent's going to go ahead and just set up a non-targetable horn, I believe. That locks me out of the extra deck, which is a little bit unfortunate. We are going to draw the regular, which is pretty good, so we're going to go ahead and activate the Allure of Darkness, try to draw a little more. Unfortunately, we drew both double or nothings. But we are going to go ahead and summon Regulator. Winder. I could have gone for Regulator, but I decided not to, mostly because, well, this deck is very vulnerable to hand traps, and I figured if he's playing Cyber Dark, he probably has a bunch of hand traps as well, so I was a little worried, and I didn't want to commit too much to an open board. But yeah, so we're going to go ahead and Desires, get a few more draws, activate the Startup to go ahead and put out the Regulator. We do have to just attack over the horn. After that, we're able to go into our Redoer, set the flyback in the Judgment, and that's going to be kind of our turn, and it's not bad. We did kind of get everything we would hope for. We got a Negate, we got a Slurp, and we have a Disruption if we need it. So we are going to go ahead and fly back before standby phase and activate Redoer, attaching the Retrograde to go right ahead and bounce the Cyber Dark Inferno back on top of his deck, and then we were able to steal it, so that's pretty fun. Then he's going to summon the Luen, and because I know a little bit about Dragoonity, I know what's up with Luen. I know what you're doing. So yeah, I went ahead and judgmented that because that's basically the ball game right there, if you stop that Luen. So yeah, and our opponent just quit. And I know that was a short game and not against, like I said, a competitive deck, but it is kind of the best possible sort of turn that this deck can have. At least the pure variant. There are obviously other aspects of it where you can just sort of like splash and Redoer. But yeah, so now next game we're gonna see things not going quite as well. But yeah, I'll see you guys there. Alright, on to the second and final replay with See the Truth. And he is playing Marine Cess Frogs, so you know it's going to be a fun time. And we are managing to go first this time, which is what we prefer, for sure. And we actually have several options as far as plays go, so long as we can get the search off. We could summon our Monk, use it to summon Winder, search flyback, overlay into Redoer, set the flyback, get a trap on there, set a retrograde even. Like, we could do that. We could also use Winder, search Startup, special summon Bezel Ship. We have ways we can go about this play is the point. So, yeah, we agree to the rules, obviously. So because we are going to be able to get more of a benefit off of Summoner Monk, i.e. some back row as well, we are going to go ahead and try to use its effect to get a Winder out of deck. We are going to go ahead and dump the dead double or nothing, so, kind of nice to use Summoner Monk. However, we get ashed. And that's our turn. Yeah, so that's the problem with this deck. It doesn't protect itself. It's very fragile. Like, obviously, your opponent's not always going to have hand traps, but then, Called by the Grave is a thing as well. But then you run into the issue of, well, you're not always going to have Called by the Grave, and your opponent's not always just going to not have hand traps, so it becomes pretty rough. Yeah, our opponent's just making Marinitas plays. I'm not willing to pay attention, honestly. Yeah, so it is now back to our turn, and there's not much we could do here because our opponent does have a negate out with the Totally Awesome. So, I mean, the best we could do is summon Winder and get slurped, so this is basically a lost game at this point. I'm just trying to play it out. So he does set our Winder, and we have to end our turn, of course. Then our opponent's just going to kind of go for game here, because there's not much we can do. And yeah, that's the big problem with this deck, and that's what happens during most games. I see why this is not played as a period variant. It's fun when it goes off, don't get me wrong, I love it, but it's just not that good on its own. Like, it needs other stuff. I think the big thing it needs, really, it needs something to protect its searches. That's all I can think of that I would like to have in Archetype. More ways to stop hand traps besides, like, free Called by the Grave, because, I mean, you're not always going to have that, but it's a good thought. But, like, I don't know, I like this deck. I like the theming, I like the play style, I love the boss monster. I just wish it was a better deck. And, yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on the Time Thief archetype and this deck in general, but let me know what you think. Is there any way I could have made this deck better? Anything I did particularly wrong? Anything I did particularly right? And if there are any decks that you are curious to see me try to play, I pretty much have it planned out what I'm doing this week, so it wouldn't happen until next week at the earliest, but, I mean, I'm always looking for suggestions and more. So, yeah. All that being said, like if you liked, comment if you have something to say, and subscribe if you want some more. This has been Ronin, signing off.